Here's a note on what Anthropic was actually saying no to. They were saying Claude could not be used for mass domestic surveillance of Americans, not that it would need to because it's already being done, or to power autonomous weapons without human approval. But the Pentagon's position was that any restriction at all was unacceptable. This week, fiction and reality are both doing the same thing, asking who gets to decide what the future looks like and what happens to people who refuse to go along. 3 new sci-fi series are forcing that question through narrative. One real-world story is forcing it through a government contract dispute. This week on the Black Futurist Podcast, we get into Pluribus, Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, and For All Mankind, and then Anthropic's philosophical disagreement with the U.S. Pentagon. All 4 stories this week are about who controls the future and what it costs to say no. The Black Futurist.
That's one small step for man.
Okay.
Pluribus is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi series created by Vince Gilligan for Apple TV+, following novelist Carol Sturka, one of only a handful of people immune to an alien virus that transforms the rest of humanity into a peaceful, content hive mind that seeks to assimilate her. The mechanism is hard sci-fi. Astronomers decode a signal from 600 light years away, revealing an RNA blueprint. A lab leak starts the joining, and the world becomes unfailingly, eerily nice to all but 13 people. Episode 1 is called We Is Us. An astronomer's discovery turns the planet upside down. Carol Sturka is a curmudgeonly novelist, is terrified by the strange new world. The title itself, the first clue. Grammar has already collapsed into collective identity. From one, many. Today on the Black Futurist Podcast, we have my great friends, Dr. Maurice Dolberry and Ted Cummings, author of Slumber and other stuff that he likes to write here and there. Welcome aboard, guys.
Thank you. I think.
Hey, man, it's been a minute. Have you all watched Slumber?
It's been a
Have you what?
Pluribus.
Have you watched Pluribus? My bad.
Yes.
But that was a prophetic question. I'm hoping.
No, it
that
actually
this
was
Slumber at some
prophetic.
point.
Because he said,
Absolutely.
I said, have you watched Slumber? Because he's been in my freaking text messages for the last 12 days, every day asking me to get him in touch with Ava DuVernay so she can read his book. So she has yet to produce the Slumber series, but she will when she sees this.
Ava is such an incredible storyteller, man. Brother, this would be a home run.
Why do you say it would be a home run? Why wouldn't it be a triple?
No, it would be a home run because Ava has not yet done, to my knowledge, science fiction. And the Slumber series is a very easy entry into science fiction. It's not hardcore sci-fi all up front. It gets there after a while, but it's really a story about people and really a story about peoples, like people groups, which is her forte. Like she tells an incredible story about Black people in a way it's just very deeply moving and also very very touching at the heart level, and that's what my story is, right? Or certainly what it could be for someone who's skilled in fiction.
That's why I thought it was important to have you on this episode and this segment in particular to talk about the parallels between your book and Pluribus, which both, Ted, did you watch Pluribus?
I haven't, but I feel like I have, man. That sounds a lot like the Body Snatchers story from the 70s. You remember that?
What a great call out. It is definitely in the ilk of Body Snatchers and They Live, V.
Yeah.
It's definitely all those things, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much giving, what was the Star Wars crew, the cyborgs, right? The Collective, I think it's what it was called.
Oh my God, is he talking about the Borg in Star
The
Trek?
Borg, yeah. I mean, yeah, the Borg, right? In terms of out of many one, and everybody has the hive mindset, and you know, there's no individualism, and you get literally physically and mentally and emotionally connected to the central whatever it is, and everybody conducts them, you know.
That's a great parallel, and actually, it's a great contrast because both involve this hive mind. Maurice, I'm going to leave that for you. That sounds like a pitch right over the plate for Maurice to talk about the difference between the hive mind in Pluribus and the hive mind in Star Trek via the Borg.
So immediately, I start thinking there isn't much of a difference.
Bullshit.
Because while the Borg are about imminent, violent, relentless conquest.
Yeah.
In Pluribus, they are relentless and imminent about happiness. The only difference is in the emotion. But I would argue that both of them, resistance is futile, is the bottom line.
Right.
You will either be happy or you will be conquered. Pluribus, Borg, but you have no choice, and it is going to happen whether you like it or not.
There's a key difference. I have to start. The Borg is going to take you, like the body snatchers. They are going to violently co-opt you versus what are we calling the we, us in the universe of Pluribus. It's just, one consciousness, and we are asking you to join. We would like you to join.
Yeah, but is it a soft ask? Like, here's the thing, man. Conquest, control is always control, regardless of join up. Right? At the end of the day, it's control. And what's interesting, and we see some parallels with colonialism, right? Because there were two ways to get to control. One was religion. Hey, come get you some of this white Jesus. He's gonna save your life and make all things better. That's the nice. It's actually the more insidious ask, but it's presented as the nice ask versus, hey, we also had these muskets and this gunpowder, and these bullets. So you can either get this here Bible or you can get this here gun. But that's what the control of colonialism, frankly, was and is. I don't know that religion gets pushed as much. It's just straight up AR, military style weapons and bombs and things.
All right, so Maurice, let's do like almost a play-by-play on episode 1, just because Ted hasn't seen it. He needs to have seen it. His book definitely has similar themes, maybe some contrasting themes, but I think it's important for folks listening to just give a little bit about the actual episode 1 of Pluribus. You want to go?
Let me jump right into my blackety black shit. So, Pluribus is a parallel and a congruent settler colonial project in which an invasive entity, we'll call it, because so the vector is really unique. Astronomer makes contact, as you mentioned, like we've got the satellites like SETI, and we're pointing it out into the universe. We're sending, whatever we have described as humanity, baseball, hot dogs, and women, right? And so what we get back is this code, right? Like finally, humanity hears this code. And so this code, it takes them a long time. Then they figure out it's RNA. Oh, this is genetic. And so
I would have stopped right there. I'd have stopped right there. There would have been no way I was going to build the RNA sequence that was sent to me from 600 light years away. Zero.
It's like, hey, here are plans for this fusion reaction. Why don't you build this fusion reaction? Right. Sight unseen. You don't know who this came from, but build this fusion reaction that's going to happen potentially extremely violently and do it right here in your living room. It's all sci-fi to an extent requires a suspension of disbelief because we're talking about a near future here with Pluribus, but especially when it's couched within a settler colonial project, there has to be some sort of drastic, gigantic mistake that humanity makes. And in this case, scientists and science makes the mistake once they figured out, like you said, once you know it's RNA, it's one thing if it's DNA, right? You might end up making a replica of one of the beings, right? Which is dangerous enough. But RNA, that's the transcription joint, bro. That's the joint that makes the copies. And so, of course, calamity, in my opinion, or it depends. This is the core tension of Pluribus and what you, to your point, be about the difference between the Borg and this hive mind collective in Pluribus. I think that the connective tissue is the fact that you actually have no will. And once you join, you don't just become this individual who now lives in harmony with everyone else. You share collective thought. You lose your complete and total individuality, right, just as you do with the Borg. And I think that hive mind, I think that's the settler colonial project, right? So let me call up my Native American colleagues, right, who would talk about the difference between the savage mind and the colonized mind. And so here's the parallel. These aliens, ostensibly in this first episode, we learn they have somehow looked at humanity and done like Ultron, right? They've been like, oh, you know what? Y'all are the problem. And in fact, but we're not going to destroy you. We're just going to make you happy and live in harmony.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to give you imminent peace.
We're going to neuter you. That's like neutering. That's neutering.
Right.
Or
we're going to eliminate conflict.
Or we're going to give you the gift of alignment.
Sure. By eliminating everything that makes any of you unique or individual.
But you didn't lose it per se. It all is known knowledge. Like we have every memory. We know every book. We have everything you've ever said, all in the collective consciousness. We've lost individuality, but we haven't lost, aside from some of the lies, we haven't lost the information or the distinct understanding of identity. Maybe there's something to it. I don't know.
Have they retained individual decision-making power?
No.
Then you've lost humanity.
Yes.
What makes us us is our ability to make a decision.
I think there's two things. Absolutely, 100%. One is the ability to make decisions on your own, right or wrong, is vital to what humanity is. The other part that is vital to what humanity is that notion that you are eminently individual. Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about it mathematically. Genetics, considering how humans are formed, because this is at its core about genetics, right? And that's how they end up infecting everyone, because they take these initial scientists, they make this mRNA strand, and of course, immediately they are reprogrammed to recreate this virus, spread it everywhere on the planet, and make sure every single human being gets this RNA, right? And so Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about genetically, mathematically, because of the number of recombinations that can happen. Every single one of us is the only version of us. There may be people, oh, you look like such and such over there. There's a dude I saw on a Ghanaian account of Instagram. You look just like that cat. And then he was standing next to Joe Dumars, right? Like, you'll get that. But genetically, you are the only one. Mathematically, you are and will ever be the only one of you. And so that's a core element of humanity. And I would also argue one core element of humanity is, let me compound it, right? It's the notion that you can be wrong and grow. And I don't think that exists anymore once you turn us into once you have the entire body of human knowledge. What is there to learn next?
What about, let's bring it back around for 1 second, two parallels. One is, where does Thanos and the Thanos snap parallel butt up to this idea? Because one thing that society got in the show with alignment was there was no more planet-ending threat. It was like, oh, all our resources are now way more abundant. We're aligned. We're efficient as hell. And we no longer have the need to worry about planet-ending species and the ending issues. Thanos did it with Snap.
Great question. That's a great question. So in the model of this series of essentially the removal of and the neutering of human will, right? Then we can control humans and prevent humanity's slide into self-destruction and planetary destruction, which we see it right now. We're headlong into that, right? Mm-hmm. If humans retain decision-making power, I got to say that, Thanos was correct. He was right. There are 7 billion human beings on this planet right now, more than there's ever been in the history of this planet that we know of, right? and we are absolutely destroying it.
Yeah.
And you give us another 100 years, the planet Earth, as we understand it, will probably no longer be here, as a function of pick a reason: politics, money, nuclear bombs, despots, dictators, the fall and rise of empires. Right? Pick a reason. But if you suddenly snap out 3.5 billion people, you have more resources, you have fewer people, you have, immediately less damage to the planet itself, and potentially you have less conflict because you have less human will to interject itself.
Yeah, it's one of the key phrases in all of sci-fi is existential threat.
hmm Humanity is the existential threat of the planet.
Yeah, shout out to Ultron as well as your boy.
Yeah.
I think Thanos would be okay with this because, to use Ted's word, which is great, you basically neuter humanity of all of its flaws. And you eliminate humanity's ability to become its own existential threat, right? To the rest of the galaxy and to itself. And you cause humanity to work together so that each individual and the collective can survive with one mind and one purpose in doing so. So yeah, that ends conflict. It does.
So
I
let me
asked the
say this. So
question,
now
like-
let me sort of turn the question spiritual for a second, right? The spiritual piece is that man, for all of our destructive capability, is also highly, highly capable of divinity. And I think where we said this a moment ago, our ability to make mistakes is what helps us to grow and to learn from that. So there is a pathway encoded within us for sort of divine growth, wisdom, enlightenment, so that we don't do things to destroy, that we do operate in growth and peace. We actually have that capability. But it often seems like that human ability we have lives in the minority of our partnered structures.
Yeah. Ted, you're an author,
I
and
am.
what value does authorship or writing have if I and every other individual on the planet knows everything that you are thinking or could possibly be thinking?
So
Yeah,
to
go.
me, that construct becomes a highly unproductive AI, right? Because AI is productive because humans keep asking it questions. Hey, what about this? Da-da-da-da-da-da, right? It's the human component of AI that makes AI productive. Well, if everybody is sort of hived in there together, then yeah, you have all this potential, you have all this knowledge and all the blah blah blah, right? But who or what is asking the individualistic questions and running the experiments and all the things, to create and to innovate and to storytell and all the things? Is it those 13 people left in the joint, or like who's doing that work? So what, we have all this intelligence if it's not being directed and stretched and moved and is not having experiences, right? That is not the human condition. Listen, guys, there's a reason that Homo sapiens have been on this planet for 250,000 years. There's been a lot of mistakes, there's been a lot of death, but there's been clearly an incredible amount of growth in our 250 years on this planet, 250,000 years on the planet. And that gets back to me to the divinity of mankind and what we're capable of. Like, we didn't not survive. Like, we survived it. We've been here. There's a mechanics around how and why that happened. That's our humanity too.
Before we move on to the next topic, Ted, I want to just give you the opportunity to talk about your book, talk about how it parallels at all or how it contrasts to what we're seeing. It is also another existential threat kind of proxy. Talk about Slumber and what it is and why folks should read it.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that the folks will get a chance to view it. Slumber is a story whose time is now. It is a story that centers Black people and our growth and our development. And Slumber provides the context of an incredible new experience, in particular for Black people in America. That experience is, we get to be our unfettered Black selves. We get to innovate for 80 years without any negative contribution from white people. That's what we get to do. The mechanics of that are a virus, which attacks the metabolic processes of the body and the brain, which puts non-melanated people to sleep, puts them to sleep for 80 years. During that time, those people do not age. But 80 years later, the country changes. Black people and brown people and yellow people, people with melanin in America are ascendant. When the non-melanated people wake up, they wake up to a very, very different America. Still America, but it's very different. And their place in this new America is different. And you can imagine what I've imagined America 80 years from now with black and brown and yellow doing our thing, our collective thing. You know, the country advances technologically, economically, socially, and it actually achieves and has a kind of peace that we've actually never experienced here. And so the first two books, Slumber is the first book. It's a 6-book series. The first book is Slumber. The second book is Awakening. And the third book, the working title of the third book is Woke. The first two books happen in modern times. The third book is the first book that takes place 80 years in the future. And it's when the non-melanated people wake up. And it's a split POV. It's non-melanated people who wake up. And then it's melanated people who are what their age, you know, in 80 years from now, who are now reacting to this new group of people coming back into American society. And as you know, Bryndan, I'm seeking offers. This thing, form or series form, but especially with what America has become in 2026, that kind of visualization of our independence from the current system, I think, is needed and important to show.
Yeah. The first two books are great. I'm looking forward to the third. And yes, I will do everything possible to get Miss DuVernay some awareness of your book.
Can I grab my books real quick? I'm sitting there looking. Can I grab them?
Yeah, man. Also, while we're on it, Ted, we're doing Star Trek Starfleet Academy next. Have you seen that show?
Oh, my gosh. I'm all about that show.
Do you want to stay for that segment?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, I think where Pluribus goes is it makes us question what is valuable to us as a species. What would we trade ultimately for world peace and to end world hunger? At what cost? And it challenges us to think of it in so many different ways. And ultimately, what if the challenge is culture and independence?
100%. Next up, we're talking Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which premiered on Paramount Plus January 15, 2026, set in the 32nd century following the cataclysmic burn event that destabilized the Federation. It stars Holly Hunter, who likes to walk around barefoot, and Paul Giamatti, who does an incredible job, alongside a new class of cadets navigating both personal drama and a mysterious threat to the Academy. In episode 1, the premiere follows Caleb, a young boy who then grows into a 21-year-old who has been fleeing since childhood and the loss of his mother, now offered a spot in the new Starfleet Academy by the same chancellor who separated him from his mother 15 years prior. That's a story about whether to accept opportunity from an institution that has caused you harm. The show was review bombed within days of the premiere, with an audience score plummeting while critics held at 88%. The backlash drawing direct comparison to Star Wars The Acolyte, which has some cool parts, but also I can understand why they bombed that. One detailed critic argued the show doesn't just reinterpret Star Trek, it misunderstands it, with cadets feeling like interchangeable teens rather than the curious minds Roddenberry envisioned. I watch everything Star Trek. You guys watch everything Star Trek. Mine is Ted, who thinks that the Borg is on Star Wars. But where are we with this show, and are you enjoying it?
So I think that criticism of it's wrongly misinterpreted. No, I think that's incorrect. If anything, to me, man, it's informed me about the process of join up to be in Starfleet, right? Like, to me, it's really thoughtful about it. And it's been interesting. Like, I've said to myself as I'm watching it, oh, they're really young, and oh, this is what they will have gone through at this young age, and oh, they actually are sort of post-teenagers working through post-teenage stuff, right, at different levels and different points of maturity. And oh, there is this conflict between various intergalactic cultures and how they all sort of assimilate to a certain degree to be able to, you know, get through these tests and do this work and sort of all the thing. And oh, there's Starfleet, and then there's the War College, and I didn't know that was a thing. And right,
Yep.
man, this is this is layered goodish storytelling,
Yeah.
right? I say goodish because at the end of the day, it's still sort of American, 21st century writers, making a post-teenish kind of show, and those themes are there too. But I think the show overall survives that layer of intentionality. I think
Yeah.
it does.
Mo, where you at?
Thoroughly enjoying it. The first episode really reeled me in. It's compelling because Star Trek doesn't usually start in a morally gray area. One of the things that has been, and to the point of that review about misinterpreting Star Trek, I think that review ironically misinterprets Star Trek. Let me wrap a few points within it. I think Star Trek is capable and is a large enough universe and conception to be able to tell all different types of stories. I think it can be a place where a YA novelist, can tell a story about young teens and romance. I think that place can exist, and Star Trek is amenable to tell that type of story and do it in a way that is just couched in that general notion of Roddenberry-esque, let's say, the idealized notion of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And so there is definitely a place for this type of story to be told. And the other piece of it, and this is really a function of where we are with episodic television, you get 8, 10, 12 episodes. If you were to go back to The Next Generation and tell me who Jean-Luc Picard was after the first 8 episodes of The Next Generation, man, they spent 2 years floundering in terms of how to tell that story and who those characters were.
That's right.
So it takes time for the writers, and Ted, I'll definitely look to your expertise as someone who is writing books and characters in a series. It takes time to develop characters, to get a feel for how you want to write them in real time. And so once you take it to television, you've got 8 hours. You've got one season and you've got to build this elaborate universe. And you've got to also fight against these, at this point, 60-year-old entrenched notions of what Star Trek can and cannot be.
Right.
It's a challenge. And so I give the show a lot of grace. I don't expect it to be like anything else. And literally on the Black Futurist Podcast, the fact that it's the future of the future, it's 900 years after Picard and them and Kirk and them and Cisco and them, right? So, and you've had this drastic, this catastrophic, galaxy-changing event that, you get a chance to kind of reset the story as well. So I'm giving the show a lot of grace. I enjoyed the first episode and am enjoying, if we can stay with the first episode or we could, kind of like, okay, actually we're in episode 8 in real time. But I'm okay with seeing where the show wants to go. I like the classic Star Trek. There's the Pinocchio character because you have the Mr. Spock and his humanity, and then you have Data and his humanity, and then you have the Doctor and his humanity, and now you've got Sam and her, they humanity, and how they traverse humanity as someone who is not human or not fully human, and how they navigate those spaces. You've got the challenged warrior in the Klingon character, but with the overlay of this drastic event that has changed the entire paradigm for what it means to be Klingon and the notion of Klingons as a species and as a collaborative.
Yeah, can I talk before you get specifics into the whole damn every character list? Can I give an overview as well? Oh, golly, man, I'm here too.
Stay with me. Keep up.
You brought it up, bro. This is interesting stuff. And Maurice didn't even say anything about the fact that the Klingon, is gay. Like, which Roddenberry wasn't thinking about that 60 years ago.
All right.
Go ahead.
I personally think it's among the best Star Trek I've seen, and I've seen all of it. Yeah, because you do. I've seen all of it. What they've done really well was they have the power to and have clearly tested what has played well in every other Star Trek series and brought all of that into one. Why was Deep Space Nine so great? Because they were no longer exploring through the galaxy. There was a stationary station. You can have recurring characters forming long-term relationships with pop in and pop out here and there, but we didn't have to jump to the African planet and then to the Sea People planet. We could tell enduring storylines. That's number one. And they did that here by giving themselves the power to, like Deep Space Nine, be stationary and travel at will, giving themselves full capability. That's awesome. Two, a lot of it reminds me of what we've seen and liked in Lower Decks. This is very much like that. There's also characters in there in the background that we've seen in Prodigy. There's just so much fan service going on that I find it to be well tested, well vetted. Like, it's almost like they took a great AI model and said, here's everything that they ever said about us that they loved. Give us the framework for writing a new show that they'll also like. And so there's way more things that I like about the show than there's things that I don't like. And like you said, to your point, Mo, it's early. It's super early. So yeah, those are my notes on the overall show.
So I'll dovetail, man, around this idea of character development. Here's the truth about that. And I think it's even more true in visual media. And I'm saying as a writer, producer, you don't know who a character is until the character tells you.
Until the character what?
Until the character tells you who they are. Mm. You don't know who this person is. You go in with a construct, but the construct is just, it's flexible. It's very, very fluid, right? And eventually, at some point, if you're dialed in as a writer, the character will reveal more and more of him or herself. There are many times I was like, I didn't see that. I had no idea this person thought this was going to do this or was going to say this. It just literally happens, right? And on the visual side, we see that happening visually when an actor will take a bit role or a role that was never meant to be reoccurring, right? Mm. And that actor turns the interpretation of that character out, and that character becomes a fan favorite. And you look up, sometimes that character can become literally the main character of whatever the vehicle was or is. Right? Yeah. We've seen that play out a dozen times across all types of shows. Man, I think the series is good. I think it's absurd for people to try to have some purity test as it relates to what Gene Roddenberry would have thought or what he believed in all the things. 60 years ago, America was different. He was different. We're different. Black men like us didn't even exist in his day, right? Much less, a gay Klingon.
Okay.
There's a parallel. So putting my research data scientist hat on, one of the things that we talk about is researchers putting entire models in conversation with each other. And Ted, that's what I was reminded of when you said you don't know who a character is until they tell you. You have to take and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm feeling this is where we are, right? You have to put that character into different situations, put them into literal dialogue with other characters, and then let that character, to your point, tell you who they are after they are put through the paces. That's how you get ultimately to the interpretation, to draw together the things we're talking about. Like in Pluribus, when you have this entire disregard for individuality and creating individual humans, we're no longer in conversation with each other in order to determine who we are individually in the world. In that case, we're in conversation with each other, and that's it. We are literally always constantly in conversation with each other. It doesn't have an end. It's not a means anymore. The communication becomes the entire substrate. Like, that's what everything is. It's just that communication. And so, again, to that same point, we got to let these characters breathe. We got to let them interact with more people. The Jean-Luc Picard, in the first 2 seasons of The Next Generation is on a different planet from the Jean-Luc Picard after The Inner Light. And he lives an entire lifetime and actually becomes a father and has children and learns how to play that little piccolo players, learns how to play that little piccolo thing, right? Like, he is an entirely different person. And to your point, Ted, the writers of The Next Generation they didn't know that's where they were going. They ultimately put that character through the paces, and that's who Jean-Luc Picard turned out to be, and that's why we love him so much. And after the first 2 seasons, he was still a whack dude, man. He was pretty whack after the first 2 seasons, right? So, yeah, I think that those things are at the core, and I see the different teenagers, and this is a unique perspective, right? It's like you said, B. Prodigy took kids and young adults and put them through the paces of a Star Trek world, but one in which time and where they exist in time is not only a key component, but it's a storytelling mechanism as well. Because these young adults in Starfleet Academy are post.
Yeah.
The rest of the Star Trek world that we've seen, save for the last few seasons of Discovery, right?
The issue I have, if I'm going to call out a couple issues, one of my core issues with this show is that if you go back to previous Star Trek shows, there was a possibility that you could be a descendant of Bryndan Moore and end up on a starship in the future. And this show, there does not exist a character that could be from the descendant of a black couple from Earth. It doesn't exist, right? You got to be a half alien. You got to have prosthetics on. There's not a black character. Like Will Riker's dad lived in Alaska. Jean-Luc Picard and his brother lived in France. And here they are all those years later in space, right? Geordi's from the freaking moon. Uhura's from Africa. Where are the brothers from Cleveland? We don't make it into future writing, and I still have an ongoing problem with that. So the issues I have with this particular Star Trek show are not really in the content. They're in the writer's room and the production meetings. It's like...
No, they're in America, right?
Who's in America? They're in America, right? Yes, they're in San Francisco.
No, they're in America. No, what I'm saying is the fact that the brothers from Cleveland ain't there that is an American phenomenon. That's what I'm speaking to, right?
Right.
And what's true is the brothers from Cleveland who ain't in the show are also the brothers from Ghana, South Africa, and some parts of India, some parts of Southeast Asia, which is to say that we are actually the majority of all human beings on the planet. So how is it then that it's just a bunch of Chads and Brads?
Now you have a better shot of being from South Africa and getting on this show than you have from being from Oakland and getting into the Academy, which is the town next door. That's the part. Like you could get in it. You could be from Ghana and be in Starfleet Academy. You can't be from Oakland.
Well, brother, listen. We get written out the future of the future all of the time. 95% of the shows, except the one errant brother who happens to be a mechanic on the starship.
That's true.
Right.
It's true.
Right. And that happening is a very American happening. It's not the truth, because obviously for the majority, if there's anybody's going to survive and go into the future like that, it's going to be people of color, right? But that's not, man. Listen, man. When we see that, that's that American inherent implicit bias folding itself into what is already implausible storytelling.
And I agree, and this is my opportunity to call it out. It was our very first episode of the Black Futurist Podcast where we talked about, does science fiction have a black male problem? And the answer is still yes, period. I'd like my great-great-grandkids to be from New Jersey or somewhere in the Eastern Seaboard and make it to the future and be able to talk back about their great-great-great-great-granddad and all his stories, blah, blah, blah. That just is a phenomenon that keeps on repeating
I disagree, man. I don't think it has a black male problem. I think it has a white, right? Because the people making these decisions are overwhelmingly white men. And when you look at their birth rates, on a per annual basis, more white men are dying than are being born, which necessitates the fact that they will eventually become the numerical minority. And there's just a mathematical impossibility that they'll be overrepresented in a futuristic context the way that we see on these television programs. I would love it if white men would engage with the reality of that and figure that sort of out within their group. Because there are reasons why that's happening. There's a reason why white males are the number one suicide risk in America. There are reasons for that. Why is there no discussion and engagement around that? And then why is there this over engagement, the presence of white men everywhere in American society, including the screens,
Mm.
right? Why is that the case? And to the obvious diminishment of women and people of color. Why is that the case?
Mm.
I'm gonna push back a bit.
My man.
And in Starfleet Academy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's the head of the war college.
Mhm.
But in terms of centrality, white men are not centered. He is the only white male character, like if you got the brother from Cleveland, all right, so the white dude from Columbus. There's only one in the entire show. And if we're speaking,
Okay, take
beyond
gender
just the
out.
first,
You got Tilly, you got the doctor. There's several tertiary characters. They exist.
Yeah, they're definitely.
I
let's-
don't
let's-
exist in the show.
let's hold them. Let's
I don't
hold
see-
them up
I
to
don't
the
see
same
any-
standard.
I don't see any brothers except for the one light skinned, clearly biracial brother who
He's Hispanic.
whatever. That dude, we try to say he's Dominican, black.
Right? Like most sons, same thing.
He clearly has some African roots in it. And boy, like he could be your son. Don't do that.
I'm just saying, bro. Continue on. I want to push.
Yeah, because you are the father of two orange motherfuckers yourself. So, look in that glass ass house that you sitting in. Hey, leave my little black skin alone.
I know Dominican, I black.
Hey man, this ain't how we do it in my household. Look, I think Starfleet Academy decentralizes white men.
Okay.
In terms of who is on the camera. If you were to at some point say, okay, let's count by screen time. I think by screen time, the number of just regular white dude who is on the screen is minimal. It pales in comparison to everyone else. And to hold them to the same standard, right? Like you said, it's a prosthetic. The doctor is not a white dude. The doctor isn't even a dude.
I meant the
doctor is
female,
a white actor.
female doctor.
The female doctor.
Yeah, the white lady female doctor who's a American comedian.
Oh yeah,
She's
yeah.
an engineer.
Yeah,
You're talking
yeah.
about
She's an engineer.
Notaro.
She's an engineer.
Yeah. She's engineer.
Yeah,
she's
she's
an engineer,
the
right?
wife of
But-
the black Klingon lady who's also a comedian.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Holding that to your same standard, B. This is a queer white woman. It's not just regular ass white woman.
No, but she's
right?
she's from Earth.
Sure.
She's from America
Sure.
per se. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
You're arguing against your own well-being here. Your son's great-great-great-grandson is not represented
Correct.
in the space age writing in most sci-fi.
Correct.
So look, are we going to talk beyond the first episode?
I don't remember seeing no
that's
brothers up
true.
in there, man.
Because here's the other side of it. The other side is while there is a 100% value, it's why it was the first episode of the Black Futurist. It continues to be a problem. Black folks, the brother from Cleveland in front of the camera.
There you go. Thank you.
At the same time, and this is what you brought up, Ted, in terms of who is writing the story. Because with Starfleet Academy in particular, we end up getting an episode that is not just written, but it's written, it's directed, it's primarily acted by folks who are Black Americans. Talking about Lower Decks, Tawny Newsome, who is a Black woman from Cleveland and whose mom is the captain of a ship who is a sister from Cleveland.
True.
In Lower Decks.
Yep.
And so now you get her in real life.
Good call out.
She's playing a trill, but that entire show is dedicated to Sam, who is played by a sister from Cleveland. Now, that's not the character. The character is a hologram.
Thank you.
For sure.
Let's not conflate.
But I'm not conflating. I'm drawing two congruencies because while, yes, there is an importance to having the brother from Cleveland, an African American representation in front of the camera, it is equally important in terms of who is telling the story. It is an inherent reason why a series like Ted Cummings' Slumber series is so important. Yes, there's Black characters in the book, but it's being told from the perspective of a Black person. And so what you get in that episode when they're exploring And you even bring back Sirach Lofton, right? You bring back the dude who played Jake Sisko to be the brother from Cleveland on camera who is telling the story of his dad, this incredible black man, right? Who has, is one of the preeminent characters in the entire Star Trek universe, right? Who is in the pantheon when people ask the question, greatest Starfleet captains. Benjamin Sisko is in that conversation, and plenty of people will put him first. So while, again, I admit, it does not have Brother from Cleveland in front, Starfleet Academy does something that is very, very unique, which is it centers blackness from a perspective that includes behind the lens and Tawny Newsome, who is also an executive producer on the show, and then puts herself in the camera. She's got prosthetics. She's a trill. But we know behind the fourth wall that this is black people telling stories and paying homage to black folks. I think both of those things are important, and I think we can both take Starfleet Academy to task for not having the brother from New Jersey, and we can also give it props for centering blackness in the storytelling and breaking it and using it to break the fourth wall in ways that so many other IPs don't, where you have a story about black people and you look at the writer's room, and the writer's room, like you said, Ted, is full of white dudes, which is a very unique perspective.
This week I posted on social media a video in homage to the great Michael Dorn, who portrayed Worf, one of the best well-developed characters in Star Trek television. He had a very, very slow start. First 4 seasons of Next Generation, it was kind of terrible. But then he picked up big time, got to continue on into Deep Space Nine and into Picard Season 3. Shout out to Michael Dorn. I am Worf, son of Moog, House of Martok, son of Sergei, House of Roshenko, bane to the Duras family, slayer of Gowron. Now that's how you want to see your Klingon go. That's how you want to see your Klingon character. I mean, the hairs on my arm stood up. That character started out so whack in the early seasons of the Next Generation. He was like the foil for everything right. So no matter what, whatever he says is exactly not going to happen. I think we should destroy them. Oh, no, Worf. No. Sit down. And he had a bad hairdo. Sometimes his face was green. And Michael Dorn was probably just happy to be working. But shout out to Michael Dorn and the writers and the producers. Y'all did a wonderful job with that character. Shout out to MF Doom, who said offsides, like how Worf rides for Starfleet. So I would encourage you to check out Be More on TikTok or Instagram and enjoy that post, and definitely get into the comments, because there's a lot of magic in the comments section. In particular, one person said, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Star Trek get way, way better after Gene passed? And I have to agree. It really did.
Well, sure, because that's the beauty of really Gene's original vision, man. But thankfully he fostered a vision, not duty, but vision that could evolve, right? Yep. And could evolve with how society evolved, right? If Gene had walked around today, man, he just sort of looked at what America is today, I think he would be shocked and hopefully positively amazed, because I think we have surpassed even what he thought was possible.
Well, give me the message. You won't believe it. We've checked and double-checked. It keeps coming up the same thing. The message is, Mars needs women.
Next up, independence, alternate history, and the futures we choose. We're talking about For All Mankind. The premise and where we are in season 5, which premieres later this month, March 2026 on Apple TV+. It picks up in the years since the Goldilocks asteroid heist, with Happy Valley now a thriving Martian colony, and the nations of Earth demanding law and order on the Red Planet, creating friction between Mars residents and their former home. The Soviet Union landed on the moon first. The space race never ended. Now it's the 2010s, and in an alternate timeline, Earth's president has declared, my administration will put Earth back in charge, and Mars is pushing back. Sounds like an incredible premise. For All Mankind is one of our favorite sci-fi properties, because as Mo would tell us, they changed actually one key variable. Not that the space race never ended and the Soviets landed first, but that indeed women were allowed at the decision-making table and to participate in all the accomplishments within the space race. So I'm super excited about upcoming season 5. Where are you guys with it?
One of the things about For All Mankind that I love is that, right? And it's not just inclusivity for the sake of inclusivity. Oh, some women are there. They actually dig into what happens. And I've said this on our podcast before, right? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson said it in so many different ways. Humanity has spent most of its time disregarding the intellectual and inherent value of women. Women were not involved in decision making for most of humanity. Women sure have not been involved in notions of the future. We men have relegated women to second class, not just citizenship, but to a complete and blatant disregard. And so what happens if you, instead of disregarding 50% of the candle power, the intelligence that you have and human resource, what happens if you actually not only include, but center them? And that, like you said, be an intro, that's the biggest challenge, the biggest piece. It makes us, and anything that has to do with going to the moon and going to Mars, I find the value, just a quick sidebar, shout out to everybody listening to this and watching this who still thinks we never went to the moon, considering we have gone to the moon 11 times. 6 of them were manned. There have been human beings put on the moon 6 times. So shout out to those of you who believe.
So says Dolberry.
Shout out to those of you who believe in the single worst possibility in terms of odds that this could be kept secret. Right. That we faked going to the moon 11 times. Right. But one of the things that those sorts of narratives we're going to, so The Expanse is kind of like, it's almost like For All Mankind is a prequel to The Expanse. Right. But where you have colonization of the moon, you have colonization of Mars, it gets us to rethink how we want humanity to live together. And the notion of colonizing the moon is such an important exercise because we get an opportunity to restart. Like, what if we make the moon a weapons-free place? What if we do not create countries on the moon, right? Like, there's so many different ways that we can think, about how we want life and human beings in particular to work with each other. And so the offer of Mars in For All Mankind and the heist of the Goldilocks asteroid that ostensibly ends the need for money on planet Earth, right? It can eliminate all economic strife. So once you do that, right? So there's no economic strife. You're stranded on this planet. It takes months from you to get back and forth from there to Earth if you're going to go back and forth. What happens when you invest in this new sense of how and why we are living together? It's the anti-pluribus. We ourselves are the Martians. And instead of saying we're going to completely reprogram your DNA because you humans are the problem, instead it allows us to completely rethink and say, man, if we had to start over again and we could eliminate settler colonialism as a concept, what would we do different in terms of how humanity is going to live together? And I love those two things For All Mankind.
Most interesting. I agree. It's going to be great to see this season, see what they come up with. The show was absolutely fantastic. The recurring actors may be getting a little long in their tenure. It's kind of hard to believe that all this can happen within one man's lifespan. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's on Apple TV Plus, and they have not sponsored this. They probably should, because if we talk this much about a thing and call out a channel this much, I think we should be getting some type of bump. But anyway, we'll save that for next time. Now to the real world.
I'm expecting a Cash App or something for my time today.
No doubt. We've talked a lot about fiction here, and we've got fiction author Ted Cummings with us. We've got Dr. Maurice Dolberry. What should I say, D-Bray? Because you don't really post on social media anymore. What are we calling you now? Educator?
I'm an educator.
Okay, yeah, and a new dad at 50-something. But we'll keep
going. Oh, bro. Congratulations. Congratulations.
With the question mark.
Congratulations, brother.
That's the perfect. You said it right the first time.
He had a full head of hair 6 months ago.
Listen,
Exactly. And a black
the
beard.
older dads, like I respect the older dads, man. My youngest, 22 as of right now, and graduates from Howard soon. And my next big thing with any child is to walk her down the aisle. It's literally my next big contribution,
Hmm.
and then I'm good. Some grand, some
Next time I
grandkid
walk
time.
Next time I walk my children down the aisle, I will be snatching them by the hand so that they don't grab every toy in it as we try to exit the local convenience store.
That's so wild.
Mine are two, man. So 2-year-old twins. It's incredible. I love it.
And can you
And
believe
it's
he
the
did not name
hardest
them
and most-
Luke or Leia?
Did not.
It's wild, son.
Did not, because they are black and Mexican. One has an old black man name and one has a old Spanish lady name. So we got Gary and Araceli.
Got it.
So
Beautiful.
Bring it to real time, real world. What do we call this? Are we on Earth 1? What is it? Earth 0? Where are we at? Earth Prime. Okay, that's really
That's so
like
arrogant. That's
it,
all
it
of
is.
that is.
It is quite. The
It's
hubris is high on that
It's
one.
so simple.
That's so crazy. How do we
It's
center
so
ourselves?
It's so simple.
On Earth, which the entire universe centers around, we kind of sit still in space. Then the whole universe just spins around us.
And to even consider that there's another brother walking around in the multiverse, or several brothers anywhere near like a brother such as myself. That's hard to think about.
Xfinity is working literally right now in our neighborhood to upgrade. So they keep sending text messages about stuff they're doing. What's pretty cool. Easy fiber.
Yeah, I don't care. Capitalism demands that your internet service will not get cheaper. You'll just get more for the same money. So, bringing it to modern day, we're talking about a real life story here on Earth Prime. The AI that said no. Anthropic, the Pentagon, and the most important tech story so far of 2026.
That's just nuts. I mean, the demand is nuts. The reply to the demand is nuts. It's all nuts.
Yeah. Well, tell the story. What happened, Ted?
Well, Hegseth and his boy Trump, told Claude AI, Anthropic, give us the inner workings and keys to your AI so that we can kill some people remotely, right? I think is how that went. And Anthropic said, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not doing that. We don't care what you cut off. First of all, I didn't know that we could use AI yet to kill anything. Just kill them. And certainly not remotely. That didn't even occur to me yet. I thought we were at least 25 years away from that happening. And
Shout out to Whopper from War Games and whatever Avengers movie that was, where they were targeting everybody with the 3 hovercrafts. Which one was that? Was that Winter Soldier? You target everybody who will be a threat, like Minority Report. The precogs will tell us that you might one day steal something from the convenience store, little Gary, but your dad might not be able to grab your hand fast enough to stop you, so we're going to go ahead and stun you first before you even do it. In every movie we've ever seen, this is a very bad thing to do. Whopper was not great. Giving AI, which is still a very young technology, the ability to not just simulate, but to actually hit the button sounds kind of wild to me. Where does that exist in your cognitions of capitalism, though? Was the company supposed to say yes? Get the contract? Take the profit?
well, so here's what we know. Some companies would have absolutely said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's wild to me that at this point of AI development, that Anthropic had the cojones to say no, right? Yeah. It's wild that they said no, in the face of that dictator who has proven he'll do anything to hurt anybody that does not please him or bow down to him, right? Man, I could go on and on about that. And I'm so shocked by all the revelations of the current rendition of the U.S. version. You have to specify at this point, the U.S. version of the Epstein file and all associated revelations therein. And just, the fact that, the nation is really being run. And maybe this is Anthropic's perspective. America is really run by a pedophile, empowered, satanic cabal. And I mean every single one of these words, literally satanic, literally sacrificing of other human beings to Molech and to Baal. It's right there in the information, right? And so perhaps looking at that, the Anthropic people looked at it and said, yeah, no, we're not going to help you do Satan's work, at least in this country. Contract be damned. That's that's probably at least part of the map for them.
Here's a note on what Anthropic was actually saying no to. They were saying Claude could not be used for mass domestic surveillance of Americans, not that it would need to because it's already being done, or to power autonomous weapons without human approval. But the Pentagon's position was that any restriction at all was unacceptable. I know how AI works at a macro level and maybe some below, right? So clearly we're not talking about the version of Claude that you or I have trained, asking it to write the response to my boss's CC about the meeting on Thursday. You know, there's an edge install probably on premises that they're training with all the military doctrine that's ever been, all of the political doctrine that's ever been, and clear information about what our capabilities are and what our objectives are. So we're actually talking about a new standalone AI that has the power to learn, that has been taught to learn.
Yeah, we call that Skynet.
Yes. Ultron. Before we cast either one of these companies, ChatGPT or Anthropic, in an angelic light, there's a detail that Claude was already there. Claude had been operating inside classified military networks through Palantir since 2024 and deployed at the National Nuclear Laboratories and used for intelligence analysis. It may have been active during the U.S. Special Operation raid that captured Venezuelan President Maduro in January. And the dispute was never about whether to deploy AI. It was about what AI was allowed to refuse to do. I think recently also the Anthropic CEO resigned because of his concerns about where his former company was headed. So there's a whole lot that we discussed in this episode. The future is being negotiated right now. And I don't know what power the individual has anymore. I think the Trump presidency, Trump will definitely be seen in retrospect as the AI president. And, you know, to say that anything happens sooner than you expected is really a misnomer around anything involving AI. The decision speed, the ability to digest knowledge, and the amount of investment make fast the doctrine of the day.
I see our futures collectively in humanity as running headlong into mutual, self-destruction because of a number of forces. Capitalism being one of the largest, racism, religious bias, and we see strong evidences of these things all the time. And we've now added a layer of what is potentially killer technology from a mass killing perspective, hypersonic missiles and hackings, which threaten to undo, the threat of anybody's society. And so I'm really worried about that. I'm beginning to be big age. I'm starting to see technology less as a solution or solution oriented, and more as quicker, faster, de-evolving and even death for human beings, for all 7 billion of us on the planet. And that sort of keeps me up at night and causes me and informs my writing at this point.
Yeah. Where can folks find out more about you and your books?
You can always reach me through my good friend, Bryndan Moore. My books are on Amazon. Slumber's on Amazon. Awakening is on Amazon. And hopefully a movie and or a series will be on Amazon Prime or Netflix or something like that in the next 12 to 24 months or so. Keep your fingers crossed.
Thanks for joining us. Y'all take care.
My pleasure. Appreciate you.
That was it, gentlemen. This is the Black Futurist Podcast. Great job. Thank you.
All right, brothers. Peace.